as we have created multiple virtual machines using custom Vagrant file, which is nothing but a Ruby program, now we have to refactor our code in such a way that we can define the properties external to the code, and we can pass that information at runtime by externalizing the properties. Okay, so again, Vagrant file is nothing but a Ruby program. You can see here I am connecting to the lab, or I am already in the lab. Okay, and I am in the directory servers where we have the Vagrant file, and you can see the Ruby code here, and you can see there are bunch of variables which are hard coded. This is not the proper way of developing deployable code. In this case, if I want to run it on my PC, you have seen that I have to change the provider from libvirt to VirtualBox, and also when we are using VirtualBox, we cannot dynamically add storage the same way as we can do it in libvirt. So we have to customize a bit of code and all those things. Now we need to build all that logic in this program, and also we have to externalize these properties so that we don't need to touch the code whenever we have to run this in different environment with a different number of instances, etc. Okay, so I'm copying this and coming out of this. First I'm destroying all the virtual machines. Okay, now I am creating something called manifest.yml. You can give any name for this YML file. It need not be manifest.yml. Okay, and I want to create a YML file, but the YML file syntax is a bit different. So let me explain you. So YML is similar to XML. When it comes to XML, you have the tags, closing tag, opening tag, etc. Which is a bit verbose. So there are better alternatives than XML these days. One is YML, another one is JSON, etc. Ruby works with almost all these file formats such as JSON, XML, YML, etc. So in this case, we are using YML. YML typically start with 3 dashes. Okay, and you can define properties like this, property 1. So the 3 dashes means the main scope, and you can actually have properties in nested scope in YML. So you can actually say higher level property, and then you can pass a value. And if you want to define additional properties as a group in this higher level property, you can nest it, and you can actually say level 1 property, and assign a value to it, so on and so forth. So you can have multiple key value pairs. So this is the key and this is the value associated with it. Okay, again you can actually define values like this. Okay, so using this approach, we'll be creating manifest.yml, and if you look at the values which we have hard coded in the program, they are like this, and I want to convert into YML format. So first and foremost, each of these are higher level properties, and hence there needs to be 2 spaces in the beginning. So as I'm using VI editor, I can say %s and then cap character, which is nothing but shift 6, and then I can replace with 2 spaces and say /g. So all the beginning characters are replaced with 2 spaces. Okay, and also YML syntax says you give the key and then colon and then value. So I want to replace this space equal to with colon. That I can actually say like this, space equal to, I want to replace with colon, and you can see that it is replaced. Also I want to replace all the double quotes. We shouldn't have double quotes when we define key value pairs, or it is not mandatory. I just want to clean it up and I removed all these double quotes. In the end, we also need to define this higher level line. We need it just for the syntax, and now we are ready with the manifest.yml file. Once you have this manifest.yml file, or you can have YML file with any name, you can open our Ruby program, which is nothing but Vagrant file in this case. Okay, and here instead of hard coding, we have to read the properties from the YML file and we have to pass that here. Okay, so in Ruby there is a package called YAML. Okay, and it has the APIs to load YML file into a map, hash map, where all the properties which are defined in that YML file will be converted into key value pairs, and we can actually read the values by passing the keys. Okay, so in this case I am creating a variable called CNF, which stands for configuration, and YAML have a class called capital Y, capital A, capital M, capital L. It has a function called load, and to that load we can actually pass the contents of the file by saying file.open. As manifest.yml is in the same working directory as the script is, I am giving the relative path. Okay, so it is going to read the manifest.yml file which is in the current directory. If both the program and YML file are in different directories, you can also give the fully qualified path for your YML file. And now CNF will have key value pairs, and we can read those values by passing the keys. So in this case I can say CNF instances, because that is the name for our variable, for our key value property in YML file. Similarly, I can get box related value from the properties file. Similarly, provider. And so on and so forth. I have to take care of all these properties. Now we have defined all the properties, and that's it. We don't need to make any changes to the code because we have already created variables earlier, and we are using variables as part of our code, and hence we can come out of this. Okay, and just say sudo vagrant up and hit enter. Now it is creating 7 virtual machines on this remote server. Now what I can do, I can destroy all these VMs which we have created earlier on my PC, and I want to test the newly created code on this with minimal change, without making any changes to the code but to the manifest.yml file, and then we will take it from there. Okay, so here I am connecting to the remote machine. First I am catting manifest.yml. Then bootstrap.sh. We already have bootstrap.sh, so we don't need to worry too much about it. And then cat vagrant file. Okay, I am exiting from this server now, and first I am copying the manifest.yml file from here. Okay, and in this case I just want to create 3 virtual machines, not 7, and also I want to use VirtualBox, not libert, and that's it. But one caveat, if we try to just update this vagrant file, with the properties read from manifest.yml file by copying this code. Okay, most of the part will work, but this logic of creating additional devices will fail. For that purpose, we need to check whether we are passing provider as libvirt or virtualbox, and if we pass only libvirt, we want to create these additional hard drives, otherwise we don't. Okay, so as the virtual machines are being created, let me connect to the remote server with a different session. Here I am connecting to remote server again because I want to make changes to the code over there, and getting into the servers directory here, and then opening the Vagrant file, and here I can develop a if condition by saying if provider, it's triple equal to compare the values in Ruby. As part of if condition, we have to give triple equal to or 3 equal to, and then we have to see if it is libvirt to add these additional drives, otherwise we don't need to do it. Okay, and then we have to nest the scope here, and we have to close the if condition. So we need to have this additional logic so that we can run the same code in multiple environments with different providers to create the virtual machines. That being said, as this is Ruby script, the more comfortable you are with Ruby and the concepts of Vagrant, you should be able to customize as per your needs, and you can actually create the virtual machines the way you want. That being said, now let me open the Vagrant file and replace with this additional logic, save it. Okay, and now I can actually run Vagrant up. Now you see virtual machines are being created. Meanwhile, we can actually validate on our remote machine. All these 7 virtual machines are created for us here. Okay, so you can actually run sudo Vagrant status. You can see virtual machines created from server 00 to server 06, and then you can actually run sudo Vagrant SSH. And give the ID of our virtual machine, which is server 00 in this case, and we can actually run ls-ltr dev vd stars so that we can see these additional hard drives which are mounted onto this virtual machine. And you can exit from here now and go to this to see if the virtual machines are created in my local machine. You can see it is still creating. It has to download the binaries to install wget, telnet, java, etc. But as one of the virtual machines are already created, I can exit from my remote host onto my local machine, get into that servers directory, and run Vagrant status. You will see some of the machines are already created here. Okay, and you can actually say Vagrant SSH server 00, and you are able to log in. Now you can actually say ls-ltr dev vd star. Okay, here the naming convention is a bit different because we are using VirtualBox. It is not creating the files as vd. We can actually say ds-h and see the details here. Okay, it is using a different naming convention altogether. Yeah, it is actually SD. So you can actually say ls-ltr dev sd star, and you can see only one device here. Whereas on our remote machine, as we are using libvirt, we are able to add additional devices easily, and we are seeing 3 devices. Okay, now with one Vagrant script, we are able to create virtual machine with whatever provider we want. In our remote machine, we have created using libvirt. In this local machine, we have created using VirtualBox. Okay, so this is how you can externalize the properties, and now you can use this code wherever you want and create virtual machines depending upon the capacity you have with the required configuration as a group, instead of creating one virtual machine at a time and then struggle with networking between all the virtual machines. We can actually create group of virtual machines with inter-networking already taken care of along with operating system and other additional softwares.